Greetings fellow mech warriors, Mando here. Today we're going to be starting our coverage of the Battletech Succession Wars technical readout from Catalyst Game Labs. Just going to be working through mech by mech in each of these videos. We'll be starting with the Succession Wars book, and then we'll move on to the Clan Invasion era TRO after we've completed the Succession Wars book. These two TROs are compilations of technical readouts that were put out previously, the specific year-dated ones. It is worth noting, however, these TROs only include the mechs. There are no vehicles in these TROs. It's purely down to the mechs. I think it'd now be a good time to start this, as we're hopefully going to see some Wave 2 mechs shipping up to people's doors. So we'll get ourselves familiar with some of the toys we'll be playing with and against. So each of these videos is going to feature one mech as it is seen in the TRO. If there are any pertinent variants, I'll talk about them. But for the most part, we're probably going to be sticking with what's the default. Be aware that some of these, even in this Succession Wars era book, some of these are lostech or mechs that came about as a result of the Hell Memory Core discovery. So we'll be getting either into the older tech or the little renaissance that kind of kicked off shortly prior to the Clan Invasion. So there may well be some mechs that aren't strictly 3025 era. So starting off on page number 7, we have the FLE-16 Flea. This is a 20-ton variant. This is not the 15-ton ultralight variant that you may have heard or played with. This is a 20-ton mech, like mentioned, with a 180 rated power plant. That gives it a walking speed of 9 and a running speed of 14, which is very impressive. No jump jets, but the 14 running speed means that you could reliably, with a few turns, still get a +4 movement modifier, which is brilliant. When you're in a mech, this slightly armoured, which I'll get onto in a minute, that speed is this mech's saving grace. If it were much slower, this would not be a viable mech at all. Right, as it stands, it's a little bit up to you, but that's a very impressive movement. There is only one other mech I can think of that doesn't use any lost tech, purely Succession War era tech that can match this speed, and that would be the Hermes. But yeah, everything else that matches the speed that's in this book will make use of some form of lost tech, be it extra light engines or mask or something similar. So, roaringly fast scout. And it packs a punch, too, to be fair. For its weight class, it's rocking 2 medium lasers and 1 flamer. A lot of these 20-ton mechs you're going to see will have 1 medium laser with a couple of backup weapons. Medium laser, it's just so all-round. There's a reason it's the super generic vanilla weapon of the game. It's so flexible, so cost-effective. You really can't complain. The flamer gives it the nice option to provide some anti-infantry support if you play with infantry, or if you are playing with the heat rules, you could use it to force a few heat upon a mech that's already running fairly hot, or to throw someone's math off, say if they're using an awesome, if you want to run up. But for the most part, you can run around at a comfortable range, like middle range, with your 4-up movement modifier and just blast away with your 2 medium lasers. You've only got 10 heat sinks, but the medium lasers are only going to generate 6 heat if you fire them both. So you can basically get 2 medium laser shots off a turn until this thing gets shot. Now I said I'd talk about the armour. It's abysmal. It's terrible. It has an armour factor of 48, so that's 48 points of armour, if you like. And to give you an idea of how little that is, the Locust, which we'll talk about next episode, has got 64 points of armour. We're all vaguely familiar and aware of how lightly armoured a Locust is. This is about 2/3 of that. It's really rough. So, if this thing gets hit by anything larger than a laser, it's in larger than a medium laser, I should say, it's in big trouble. Like a solid LRM volley, if we get 9 odd LRM shots in here, like a cluster of 9, it's gonna take. It's not going to appreciate that at all. This is a mech you could sandpaper very quickly. So with 5 armor on the head, 8 on the center torso, the rear armor is all 3. The left-right torsos are 5. The arms and legs, and this is where I have my biggest problem. The arms and legs are 4 armor on each. The big problem there being the legs. I know the lasers are mounted in the arms, so you could lose the lasers, and that's not great, but that's not awful. The problem is, with only having 4 armor on the leg, you take a medium laser hit, they hit the leg, it's going to go internal. If they roll a crit, you have to blow the leg off. You just have to take an actuator hit. This thing's movement speed is going to start dropping, and when this thing's movement speed starts dropping, more so than even mechs like the Locust or the Commando, this thing relies entirely upon its speed to survive. And with no jump jets, if it finds itself in a dense environment, such as a city fight or somewhere like the Devil's Cauldron, the Devil's Bath, the Tukaid map that's come out, with all the Height 6 canyons on it, this mech is going to struggle monumentally to disengage and get out alive. So that is something to be aware of. If you get clipped in the arms, if you get clipped in the arms, you're going to lose some firepower pretty quick. Internal structure for the arms and the legs as well, very low. There's only 4 internal structure on the leg, 3 internal structure on the arms, so it's just going to peel off. You've effectively got 7 pips of health in your arms and 8 pips in the legs, so a large laser to your leg will immediately blow that thing clear off. So you want to play it incredibly conservatively, I think. Run around, don't use that flamer, basically. Save it. If you're having to use the flamer, then something's gone wrong. Unless you are playing with infantry, and this mech is just going to run over to a bunch of infantry in a forest and just burn that down. Basically pretend the flamer's not there. Just make use of the lasers at medium range, maybe? Or long range, somewhere in that bracket. It depends on what you're playing against, obviously, but be smart about how you engage, and just use this thing to harass. It does come in at 506 battle value. That is, of course, with a 4/5 pilot, so that will scale. So it is a bit more costly than, say, the Locust. It's about 70 points more than the Locust. So you are paying for that mobility. It makes a good spotter. You could have it run around at high speeds and spot for indirect fire. But this is definitely not a... it's not a frontline light mech. It's not even something where you want to necessarily trying to run. You can just try and pressure rear arcs of mechs, but you're not going to want to risk slowing down or getting right up close to the rear arc of a mech unless you're definitely going to be safe to run out of there next turn. It's kind of an all-in mech on that speed, and it's good fun when you run it. But just be aware, if you get shot in the leg, this is a dead 500 battle value that you've spent. So depending on how much of your points limit this mech is going to cost, bear that in mind. I probably wouldn't pay more, because it is already 500, I probably wouldn't pay much more to get a better pilot in here. If you're going to be playing a game with variable mech warrior levels, I would just keep just a nice default pilot. Yeah, you won't hit that much, but the fact is he's going to be a real pain for them to shoot, and if they're dedicating a few thousand battle value to try and shoot at this 500 battle value thing for a few turns, then the rest of your lance, whatever battle value you're playing, is not being fired upon, and this makes a great distraction. No hands means it can't grab a lot of objectives, but it can just run around being incredibly annoying until it gets swatted, as is the way for many bug mechs, but the Flea most of all, I think.